India. The Jyoti in India is in a place of struggle and suffering, and we have been praying for India, and we still pray and hope that things there improve before too long. It has been terrible, we know that. But Jyoti has somehow the ability to link earthly things, happiness and sadness, with the heaven. And his talk, I'm sure, will do that for us today. But welcome to all of us, and especially our guests. And thank you, Jyoti.
Well, thank you very much. And I must thank both Christians Aware for giving me this opportunity to share my ideas, and especially to you, Barbara Butler, for inviting me to talk about my recent paintings and also thinking about how the local landscape relates to some biblical themes. That has been my main interest over these years. And during this particular time of pandemic, uh, we have been limited to this house and the garden around it. And we have also had a chance of going out a little into the countryside around. Um, so I have been carrying on with my painting, but also writing. Um, Perhaps it's important just to say a few things about this place. We came to this particular village, which is called Silvepura, in 1972. So next year it'll be 50 years. And I remember uh, when I first was introduced to this village, uh, just coming outside the village and looking across the landscape with its undulating hills and being attracted to a pool or reservoir of water, which was in the sort of bowl beneath the village, um, where rainwater was being harvested and uh, made available for the local fields. This is a typical feature of this countryside, which is in the Deccan Plateau. It's in South India, near the town of Bangalore. And here there isn't any big river or anything. So right back in many centuries, people have made these reservoirs in order to collect the rainwater, which is the main source of water, uh, not only for irrigating the fields, but also for maintaining the level of groundwater for the various open wells which we have in this area. So seeing this area with its water reservoir and its pool, it was just after the rainy season about this time, I was particularly attracted to this piece of land and was able to buy a plot of land next to the water reservoir. So in a sense, this has been the landscape which I have tried to use. I did a lot of sketches, especially when I first came here, of the countryside around us. And I used these sketches as a kind of backdrop, you could almost say, or a context for my reflection on biblical themes. This has been my particular interest in a relationship to the whole question of how gospel can relate to culture. I feel that it's essentially the land which is the context in which people can relate to the gospel stories, biblical stories. So in my study of village culture around here, I was especially interested in how this culture could relate to these Bible stories. Now, to explain a little further about the garden which we have, we are lucky, especially at this time of pandemic, to have quite a large garden over a couple of acres, and also to have this reservoir, which is a seasonal reservoir. It fills with water during this time of the rainy season, and in the past it was used to irrigate some of the fields nearby. But in the summer months, it dries up. And it is common land. In fact, when we first came here, much of the countryside around here was common land, in the sense that it wasn't divided up into land holdings which individuals had, but was an area which was used by shepherds and herdsmen to graze their flocks, and was belonged essentially to the village panchayat, or the village council. Now the whole situation has changed, and much of the land has been taken up by individuals for housing. So we, because we are not very far from Bangalore city, and the city is growing at a great rate, we are in a sense becoming part of the outskirts of Bangalore. One thinks that the countryside is something which is permanent, but something which has very much struck me is how the countryside is changing, how the landscape is changing. Landscape is not permanent at all. It is itself an expression of the relationship of the human community to nature, and the way in which the human community uses nature. In fact, this is one of the main interests which we have had, relating the community, human beings, with the environment. Of course, just now, especially at this time of pandemic and the climate change and the ecological crisis which we are passing through, this is very much a topic in the minds of many people just now. In fact, the whole question of what we mean by well-being, what we mean by health, is a holistic question which relates very much to how human beings are connected with the environment around them. So I think that one of the questions that I have been particularly interested in during this time, when I have been concentrating very much on our own garden, is how the garden is itself a symbol of healing, the wholeness of the garden, and also how the garden relates to the environment around us. So in one way, the garden is cultivated land, and it is something related very much to our own family. But on the other hand, it is very closely linked to the common land. which is
Oh, it's
just.
painful.
So actually, just to give you a very short glimpse, this is our window looking out, and maybe you can see the outside. There is a glimpse of the common land, which is next door to us, and which we rely on a lot because it's because of the water that is harvested in this common land that we are able to have a plentiful supply of water for the garden. I will now go on to think about and to discuss some of the pictures which I have collected and which I have related very much to the tree. The tree in St. Paul, he talks about the tree of the cross. And what is positive about this idea of the tree is that it is not only to do with suffering, it is also to do with celebration, also to do with resurrection. We have for example, the book of Job, that the tree is a tree of hope. Even when it is cut down, it is able to sprout again. So it is a sign of hope. And in this first picture, which I have used as the introduction to my talk, I have shown Christ in the tree. And this tree, I will come back to it, is a tree which has a flaming blossom. It's called the flame of the forest. And it is a wild tree, very much indigenous to the local landscape. In fact, it is even mentioned in the epics, where it is said in one place poetically that the hero who is wounded, his wounds are like the flowers of the palash tree. It's called palash. So the flowers, the flaming flowers of this tree, are both like fire, but also like wounds. The next picture, please. So I have just mentioned at the beginning of this, this land is called a kere. Kere means a common land. If you can go back to that slide. And this kere, which is used for agriculture in the rainy season, is also a space where various industries, particularly the brick making industry, when we came here first, people would be making bricks from the clay. As you see in these pictures, it is a reddish clay which has collected from the surrounding fields, which our earth here is very red, and it collects in this the bed of the kere or the reservoir. And when it dries up here on the left, you have the very dry season, but on the right you have when the water begins to collect in this place. Next picture. Can you carry on? The next. So near these keres, could you go back, please? Back, please. I want to go back. Good. In these, no, please go to that slide. You've gone back too far now. Near to the kere, there is often a space which has a sacred grove. There is a group of trees, often remnants of what used to be the forest, but which was cut down during the time when agriculture became the dominant work of the village, but where there are snake stones here in the background are snake stones, which represent the life of the land, energy. They are symbols of fertility, also of protection, also of healing. In fact, we have even in the Bible the idea that the snake is a sign of healing. And we have Jesus saying to Nicodemus, unless the snake is lifted up, the people cannot find healing. In this picture, I have tried to represent the teacher sitting on a platform with the stones and teaching. In fact, we often even hear of teachers like even Gautam Buddha, who sat probably under sacred trees. These are banyan trees around, and gained enlightenment there. And in front, there are people who are listening to his teaching and thinking of Christ as a teacher, and also the shepherd. Next picture, please. And the next picture. Hello? Hello? The next picture. Can you go to, good. No, yes, this is right. So, no, please go back. Please go back. Give me a little time with each picture. Please go back. Here we are. So here again, no, you've gone back. Is that too far now? No. All right, here, let me talk about this picture. Oh dear. This is a picture of the common land after the rains. And this is a space in which, especially when we first came here, there were many herds people. Even now, people who are bringing their animals to drink by the water, or also later on graze by the water, because there are fields near to the water. So in this picture, I have tried to think about the flight into Egypt. If you go back, actually, you have missed a picture just behind this. Can you go one step back, please? No, back, please, back. Here. As I say, when I first came to this place in the dry season, which is, you could say it already begins in January, after the rains are over, the people would be coming here who were migrant laborers and building brick kilns. They would be using the red clay from the land and building them up into these almost looking like great, you could say, as in Egypt, what do you call them? Where pyramids. Now, in these kilns provided the building material, which was very much needed as Bangalore was being built up nearby. And but the wandering herdsmen and also workers who came to do this building. They, even at this present time, there is a great problem that their work is very much related to a seasonal employment, and at a time of pandemic, they are forced to stop work and to leave, often having to travel quite long distances to get home to their to where they come from. And so I thought of this in terms of nativity by the kilns. In the left-hand side, a family who are working on the kilns. In the background, they're working, and in the sky, the kind of clouds and coming of the rains, as also a sort of presence of angelic spirits or angelic beings. Now the next picture. So the next picture after this is the flight into Egypt here, and they're crossing over. So the herdsman is very much linked. You can carry on to the next picture. Herdsman is very much linked to this whole idea of the migrant people. I have done a lot of pictures of Jesus as a herder, as a shepherd, and with the based on the herders who are in the local countryside. Next picture, please. Carry on. So in this common land, which is next door to us, there are lots of thorn trees. They in fact, when we first came to this piece of land, the one tree which we had was this thorn tree, which was, otherwise there were no trees here. But over the years, over the last 50 years, we have planted many trees. So this thorn tree, which is both, it comes to leaves in the later in the spring period, but it represents how the tree is both a tree of life, but also of, in a way, death. And so I have begun to think of Christ as, in a sense, the earth reaching down, the gardener, the person who is working with the earth, but is also crowned with thorns. He is himself, in a sense, in his own suffering, identified the thorn tree. Next picture. Yeah, next picture. Hello. Next picture. So next to, as I said when I started this, beside the water reservoir, there is a grove of sacred grove. And in fact, the other side of this common land near the dike, which is holding the water, we have a sacred grove. And I have often painted that grove. That has interested me, particularly in relationship to the whole idea of Abraham meeting the angels who visited him as he pitched his tent in the sacred grove of Mamre. Under these trees, there is often a small kind of temporary, what we call a pandal, a place where originally, rather like something where a shrine, you could say, a place where images of the sacred is present. So I was thinking in this picture of the angelic forces present in the sacred grove as being almost like the dance of the trees. The angels are themselves the tree, and the tree is identified with the presence which is within the tree. So the Trinity here, Abraham experienced the Trinity is a kind of presence in the group of trees. Next picture, please. Yes, next picture. So these are some more sketches or paintings of the grove on the other side of this dike. Here I had been especially interested in the idea of Jacob wrestling with the angel. So the trees, again, are both symbols of a kind of divine presence in the grove, in nature, but also a kind of struggle, of the human with the elemental. The angel which Jacob wrestled with is the elemental forces which are present in this symbol of the tree. The tree is growing up out of earth, reaching up towards the skies. It is a symbol of a kind of reaching of the earth towards the heavens. Next picture. The next picture. So here again, I come to this image of the flame of the forest, which is common in the countryside around here. It is in the villages near the well. On the left-hand side is a flame of the forest tree in a village nearby, and a well behind, which I have used often in pictures which I have done on the woman at the well. And on the other side is the dry land with the flaming tree, which comes into blossom just about the beginning of the summer months, that is in February and April. Next picture. Next picture. So it is, our garden is a kind of a pathway, you could say, into this wilder, more uncultivated land of the common land, the dry land, and village beyond it. But our garden is in a sense a contrast to that uncultivated land. It is, again, I have thought very much about the symbol of the garden, how the garden is very different from the wilderness. The next picture. So on the left is a picture of the common land next door to us, with the pool. It is already the beginning of springtime. And on the right is a picture of the garden with a lotus coming up. We have a number of pools in the garden, and there what has been of special interest to me is the symbol of the lotus. The lotus, actually, some of the lotuses we have gathered from the pools in the neighboring countryside. Many pools have lotuses growing in them wild, but here they are linked also to lilies. This is a painting of the spider lily, and the lotus is supposed to come out from the darkness of the water and reach up towards the light. Next picture, please. Hello. Next painting. So there, I have this feeling that Christ is himself, in a way, to be understood as the garden, that the body of the garden. In fact, there's one of the songs of Kabir, who is a poet in India, who brings together the Islamic, you could say, the Semitic tradition and also the Hindu tradition. He speaks of the garden being the body. The body is itself a garden. So the immersion of the human being in the garden. The garden is not something only outside, it is something within. So it is a presence of the divine in nature. The next picture, please. So coming back to this symbol of the lotus, which I have worked on quite a bit, because we have a number of, as I say, pools in the garden here. The symbol of the lotus is to be found everywhere in Indian art and culture, and probably is again a link back to the importance of lotus also in the Middle East, in Egypt, and where also the lotus is very much found in Egyptian art, along with the lily. Here it has come to mean the rise of consciousness out of the waters, which represent a sort of sleep and unconscious idea. Carry on, the next picture. Hello, next picture. Can you? Oh. So here, taking this idea that the landscape is itself a story, I have represented the entry into Jerusalem as Jesus himself is the palm tree. He is riding the donkey, he is entering into the city, and again, in this landscape around us, there are many palm trees. The next picture, please. Hello, next picture. No, yes. So here again, coming back to this idea of the tree, which is present not only outside in the countryside around us, but also in the garden as a symbol of the center of the garden in the whole story of creation, the tree as the tree of life, but also of the knowledge of good and evil in the center of the garden. The next picture, please. Yes. So this is a kind of expression of the resurrection in the garden of the resurrection, and the pool on the left-hand side with Mary Magdalene, but also the tree. Here it is the Datura tree. the Datura plant. We have a lot of them around here. Just behind me is a picture of the Datura. It is a medicinal plant. It's also very poisonous, but it is used in many medicines, even in modern Western medicine, for heart troubles and so on. So it's an interesting idea that poison is itself a way of discovering healing. Next picture, please. Here are some sketches which I have made of the Datura plant, which is just outside, growing around the trees. It has a very interesting form. And this form is found in many temples. Carry on to the next picture. Next picture, yeah. So also in the garden is this cactus, which is sometimes it's called the Star of Bethlehem. It comes out at night and is again linked to water. As soon as it starts to rain, immediately this flower appears, and it is an amazing plant which disappears during the daytime and which is like a star. I use that in the painting which I showed earlier on of Christ immersed in the garden. As above him are these star-like flowers. Next picture. Yes. So this leads on to the whole idea of Pentecost, the renewing of the whole of creation through life of the Spirit, which brings new life and new hope. In fact, again, just behind me is the painting, which is on the left-hand side, of flowers which look almost like flames. Many flowers have a flame-like quality. So in the right picture, there is the disciples are like leaves or plants, and in the center is an image. I don't know if you can make it out from this picture. We perhaps need to go zoom into it a bit. Is a picture of Mary herself as a plant reaching up towards the Spirit, which is fire, entering into creation. Last, carry on. Hello. And so the last picture, which I have here, is about the kind of journey into the garden, journey which is also like the journey of Emmaus. The picture to the right, which is not complete, but anyway, is the disciples entering the garden of the resurrection and under the tree, waiting for them to come. In front, again, the spider lilies, the journey, which is also the journey of into the wholeness of the garden. That's all, I think. Thank you. Well, I will be happy if you have any reflections. I have to rather sort of struggle through this collection of pictures. Many of them are just sketches, or in a way, beginning of ideas which I hope to develop in the future. Thank you.
Jyoti, what kind of paint are you using?
Barbara, are we going to go into breakout rooms? Is that the next stage?